on Marshall Road?
I think there's been a bad shooting.
A quiet suburban neighborhood. A spring afternoon in South Carolina. 20 gunshots shatter the silence. When police arrive, they find a scene of unimaginable horror. A prominent doctor. His wife. 2 young grandchildren. And 2 workers, ambushed in the backyard. 6 lives stolen in minutes. The killer? A hometown hero. A man this community once celebrated. This is the story of Phillip Adams. And the day Rock Hill, South Carolina lost its innocence. April 7, 2021. Rock Hill, South Carolina. A city of 75,000 people. Tree-lined streets. Friendly neighbors. Friday afternoon calm. At exactly 4:44 p.m., a 911 call breaks that calm. The voice on the line is strained. Panicked. Robert Shook. Age 38. An HVAC technician. He's been shot. Multiple times. He manages to give dispatchers critical information. His location. His condition. And something else. The name of his attacker. Phillip Adams. Former NFL player. Local legend. The man who just turned Marshall Road into a crime scene. Dr. Robert Lesslie was 70 years old. A beloved physician in Rock Hill for decades. He treated patients with compassion and skill. Outside the exam room, he kept bees. Played bagpipes. Wrote poetry. His wife, Barbara, was 69. Known to her grandchildren as Nana. To everyone else as Miss B. A woman who lit up every room she entered. Faith was her foundation. Service was her calling. Together, they'd been married nearly 47 years. 4 children. 8 grandchildren. A life built on love and devotion. That afternoon, they were babysitting 2 of those grandchildren. 9-year-old Ada. 5-year-old Noah. Ada loved books more than anything. A bright, kind-hearted girl. She loved Jesus. She loved church. She always smiled. Noah was the youngest grandchild. Full of energy. He'd share his snacks with anyone. A generous little soul. Their parents, Jeff and Katie, were out celebrating Katie's birthday. A normal family moment. Until it wasn't. 2 HVAC technicians were working behind the Lesslie home that day. James Lewis. 38 years old. Single father of 3. A man who centered his life around his children and parents. Gentle. Good-hearted. The kind of person who'd give you his last dollar. Robert Shook. Also 38. Married with 3 kids. He'd worked hard to become a certified technician. Providing for his family was everything to him. Both men were simply doing their jobs. Neither would survive the afternoon. Phillip Matthew Adams was born July 20, 1988. The youngest of 3 children in Rock Hill. His father, Alonzo, drove trucks. His mother, Phyllis, taught elementary school. Teachers remembered young Phillip as special. Kind. Well-mannered. A kid with a good heart who got along with everybody. Football started at age 7. By high school, he was a 2-sport athlete. Basketball and football. Classmates called him fresh because he dressed sharp. Always looked good. Rock Hill High won 2 state championships during his time there. Phillip helped seal the 2004 title with a fourth-quarter interception. Local star. Hometown hero. He graduated in 2006 with a bright future ahead. South Carolina State University offered a scholarship. Phillip played cornerback for the Bulldogs. Junior year, 2008. 5 interceptions. 9 pass deflections. Senior year, 2009. 48 tackles. 3 picks. First team All-Conference honors. The scouts noticed. But late in 2009, tragedy struck. Phyllis Adams was in a serious car accident. paralyzed from the chest down. Medical bills piled up. Full-time care became necessary. Money was tight. Phillip's NFL dream became more than glory. It became survival. The San Francisco 49ers drafted him in the 7th round. Pick number 224. Phillip Adams was going to the NFL. 15 games his rookie season. Mostly special teams. 1 preseason punt return. 83 yards. A flash of promise. Then December 26, 2010. A kickoff. A compound ankle fracture. Surgery. Screws inserted. Season over. By September 2011, the 49ers released him. New England picked him up. 6 games. 1 interception. Released again. Seattle signed him. 1 game. This became the pattern. Team to team. City to city. Never quite finding a home. Oakland in 2012. 15 games. 1 pick against Peyton Manning. But the injuries kept coming. Groin. Ankle. And the concussions. 2 documented in 2012 alone. Within 3 games. His brain was taking damage. More teams followed. New York Jets. Atlanta Falcons. 78 career games across 6 seasons. 128 tackles. 5 interceptions. Then in 2016, it ended. Kansas City workout. Indianapolis training camp invitation. He missed his flight. March 9, 2016. Age 27. Phillip Adams' NFL career was over. He went home to Rock Hill. Friends said Phillip retreated into himself, quietly hoping another team would call. The call never came. He tried to rebuild. Volunteered with youth football. Opened a smoothie shop in 2019. Fresh life. Promoting healthy living in the community. Within a year, it failed. He turned to farming. Small operation at his parents' property. Talked about expanding. Opening a produce market for inner-city kids. But behind the scenes, something was changing. Ashley, his girlfriend of nearly a decade, noticed first. They had a son together in 2014. Phillip was devoted early on. Diapers. Feedings. Everything. But after their relationship ended in 2015, things shifted. By 2019, he'd become irritable. Harsh with words. Missed phone calls with his son. Slow to respond to texts. Inconsistent about scheduled visits. Ashley believed Phillip was distancing himself on purpose. Because he knew something was wrong with his brain. Jekyll and Hyde behavior, she called it. One moment trying to reconcile. The next, full of hate. Then apologies. Promises to do anything for her and their son. Exhausting. Confusing. Painful. Scott Casterline, Phillip's agent, saw it too. Phillip refused help. Refused treatment. Football mentality. Tough it out. Don't show weakness. The NFL offered programs for former players struggling physically and mentally. Phillip declined every time. By 2020, the isolation deepened. He withdrew from friends and family. Stopped attending events. Wrote cryptic messages on his walls. In notebooks. Messages never publicly released. Messages investigators would later find. Early April 2021. Ashley said Phillip seemed calmer. More agreeable. Even talked about buying a new home. Beneath that calm, something terrible was forming. April 7, 2021. Morning at the Adams home on Marshall Road. According to Alonzo and Phyllis, Phillip seemed normal. Nothing alarming. Just another day. Around midday, his parents left to visit a relative an hour away. Before leaving, Alonzo made a phone call. To Scott Casterline. Philip's agent left a voicemail saying he needed to talk about Philip. No panic in his voice. Just a father concerned. Scott didn't answer. The worst possible day not to pick up. What Philip did for the next several hours isn't documented. But around 4:30 in the afternoon, he made his decision. Black hoodie. Camouflage pants. Black motorcycle helmet. 2 weapons. A .45 caliber submachine gun. A 9mm pistol. He climbed onto his four-wheeler and left the property. The Adams home sat on Marshall Road. Philip drove about a mile. Then turned onto wooded trails. Trails that led directly behind Dr. Leslie's property. He parked the ATV in the woods, turned off the engine, and crept toward the house. 4:42 p.m. 2 HVAC technicians working on the air conditioning unit in the backyard. James Lewis. Robert Shook. Philip, masked by his helmet, opened fire without warning. James Lewis was killed instantly. Robert Shook was shot at least 6 times. But he managed to crawl away. Pull out his phone. Call 911. He told dispatchers what happened. Identified Philip Adams by name. Then the line went silent. Meanwhile, Philip forced his way inside the Lesslie home. Inside were Dr. Robert Lesslie, his wife Barbara, and their 2 grandchildren. 9-year-old Ada. 5-year-old Noah. Philip cornered them in a rear exercise room. And then, in a matter of minutes, he shot and killed all 4. At the exact same time, a neighbor mowing his lawn heard it. Approximately 20 gunshots. He ran toward the Lesslie property. Saw a man in dark clothing and a helmet exit the home. Flee into the woods on an ATV. Police arrived to chaos. James Lewis dead near his work truck. Robert Shook critically wounded but still conscious. Inside the home, officers found the bodies. Dr. Lesslie, Barbara, Ada, Noah. 6 people. 6 innocent lives. Within minutes, investigators had a suspect. Philip had dropped personal items at the scene. A tin of chewing tobacco. His cell phone. ATV tire tracks led away from the property. Officers followed the path. It led directly back to the Adams family home on Marshall Road. By 5 p.m., a massive manhunt was underway. Helicopters circled overhead. K-9 units and SWAT teams swept the area. Residents were told to lock their doors. Stay inside. By 8:30 that evening, police surrounded the Adams property. Philip had barricaded himself inside. For the next 6 hours, officers tried to get him to surrender. Loudspeakers. Flashbangs. A robotic camera to locate him. Philip never responded. At some point during the standoff, Alonzo and Phyllis returned home. Their property surrounded by law enforcement. Alonzo stepped outside. Was briefly handcuffed. Once officers confirmed he wasn't involved, both parents were escorted away. 12:30 a.m. April 8th. A single gunshot was heard inside the home. 2:30 a.m. SWAT entered the residence. They found Philip Adams deceased. Self-inflicted gunshot wound. A .45 caliber handgun beside him. The manhunt was over. But the questions were just beginning. Robert Shook held on for 3 more days. He died in the hospital on April 10, 2021. His daughter called him her hero. The fun-loving dad who loved life. Joking around. Fishing trips. He'd worked hard to provide for his wife and 3 children. Even after being shot 6 times, he found the strength to call for help. James Lewis was a single father of 3. His entire life centered around caring for his children and parents. Friends described him as someone who'd give you the shirt off his back. Gentle. Good-hearted. Easygoing. He loved the outdoors. Loved to laugh. Loved pranks and fishing. He was working that day to support his family. He never came home. Dr. Robert Lesslie had been a well-known physician for decades. He and Barbara had been married nearly 47 years. 4 children. 8 grandchildren. When he wasn't caring for patients, he kept bees. Played bagpipes. Wrote poetry. Tended his garden. Spoiled his grandchildren. Deeply devoted to his church. To helping people. He served as camp doctor at Camp Joy, a special needs ministry. Barbara also volunteered there. Teaching Bible study. Pouring her heart into service. Barbara was known as a bright, shining light. Joy. Charisma. Love. Enthusiasm in every room. Even strangers felt like friends in her presence. Family said she could solve any problem with a hot glue gun, a Diet Coke, and a song. Her faith was central. Her service countless. Ada Lesslie was 9 years old. Bright. Kind-hearted. Loved books more than almost anything. Loved church. Loved Jesus. Always smiling. In her honor, the family established a free library at their church. A tribute to her love of stories and learning. Noah Lesslie was 5 years old. The youngest grandchild. Energetic. Sweet-natured. Always ready to share his snacks with anyone around him. Loved church. People there loved him back. In his honor, the family created Noah's Snack Shack. A small food pantry at their church. Reflecting his playful, generous spirit. These were not statistics. They were people. Parents. Grandparents. Children. Workers. Neighbors. Friends. Lives full of love, purpose, and potential. Stolen in an act of violence no explanation can justify. Why did Philip Adams do this? Why target Dr. Lesslie? Why kill innocent children? Investigators revealed Philip had been a patient of Dr. Leslie's. The exact nature of their medical relationship was never fully disclosed. Some reports suggested Dr. Lesslie had recently stopped prescribing Philip medication. Possibly amphetamines. Possibly pain management drugs. This was never confirmed as a direct motive. December 2021. Neuropathologists at Boston University conducted an autopsy of Philip's brain. What they found was both significant and deeply unsettling. Philip had an unusually severe case of stage 2 chronic traumatic encephalopathy. CTE. A degenerative brain disorder caused by repetitive head trauma. Found in former football players. Boxers. Others who've experienced repeated concussions. Symptoms can include impulsivity. Mood swings. Aggression. Paranoia. Difficulty controlling violent impulses. Philip had suffered multiple documented concussions during his NFL career, including 2 major ones in 2012. The findings suggested his brain had been deteriorating for years. Long before anyone on the outside could see it. But here's what must be said clearly. CTE does not excuse what Philip Adams did. Thousands of former athletes live with CTE. Thousands struggle with pain, depression, cognitive decline. The vast overwhelming majority do not hurt anyone. They seek help. They lean on family. They fight through it. Philip Adams made a choice. He armed himself. He drove to a family's home. He ambushed 2 men. He forced his way inside. And he murdered a beloved doctor, his wife, and their 2 young grandchildren. CTE may help explain the deterioration of his mind. But it does not justify his actions. And it certainly does not erase the lives he took. The Rock Hill community was shattered. Vigils were held. Flowers, candles, photographs piled up outside the Lesslie home. The story made national headlines. But it faded quickly. Perhaps because the shooter was already dead. Or perhaps because the uncomfortable truth about brain injuries in sports didn't fit neatly into a headline. The Lesslie family released a public statement. They asked for privacy. They thanked the community for overwhelming support. They said their faith would sustain them through unimaginable grief. They said they forgave. But forgiveness didn't erase the pain. Robert Shook's family mourned a man who fought for 3 days to survive, only to lose that battle. James Lewis's children lost their father. 2 families lost their providers, their protectors, their heroes. Alonzo and Phyllis Adams were left to grieve not only the son they raised, but also the 6 people he murdered. Alonzo's voicemail to Scott Casterline, the one he left just hours before the massacre, remains a haunting reminder of a father who sensed something was wrong, but didn't know how to stop it. There were no arrests, no trial, no courtroom where families could face their loved one's killer. Philip Adams took that from them when he pulled the trigger on himself. 6 lives. A community forever changed. And questions that will never have complete answers. This is the legacy of April 7, 2021. This is the story of the Lesslie Family Massacre. And the hometown hero who became a killer.